Welcome back to America's Voice Live on this Labor Day. Thank you so much for spending time with us here today at Real America's Voice. We truly appreciate it. Well, we all know that universities in this country have gone woke. Embarrassing but true, with social justice being the focus where, quite frankly, it really shouldn't be. I mean, what happened to reading, writing, arithmetic, that sort of thing? All replaced by social justice, apparently. Another push for social justice has come in the form of pushing trans rights on college campuses, with the Biden administration looking to change Title IX to destroy women's sports, because that would be the net effect. With me now to discuss it is former athletic director and current tenured associate professor of English at Georgia State University's Perimeter College, as well as a higher education fellow with Campus Reform, Rob Jenkins. Professor, good to see you today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
You know, you've got to be careful here, Professor, because, you know, speaking your mind and telling the truth, I mean, that can get you all sorts of hate mail in your email. And, of course, if you're not careful, some universities try to toss people like you with independent thoughts right out the door, don't they?
Well, that's true. So far, that hasn't happened at my university, and I'll keep a good thought on that front. But you know, I can't not speak the truth insofar as I'm able and in a position to do so. And I'm grateful that Campus Reform has given me this platform, and that you've given me a platform here today, so that I can say some of these things.
Well, it's important. I have a child who just started college. I have another that graduated here a few years ago, so I've had a pretty good relationship with, you know, spending all of my money on college pursuits. And I'd like to know that I'm getting something out of it, that I'm not getting a gender studies degree or a communications degree that's generally worthless. I'd like to know that when my kid goes to college, they come back knowing how to do math and science and solving problems. And critical thinking would be nice, Rob. Critical thinking. I don't need them coming back with a form of, well, I believe this, and I believe this, and I believe this. How do we get things under control again?
Well, I think the key is what you just mentioned, critical thinking. I think colleges haven't really been teaching critical thinking for quite some time now. They say that they are, but they're really not. That's one of the things that I specifically teach. I teach rhetoric, writing. I do teach critical thinking, logic, and those kinds of things. And so a big part of my job is logic. I know.
You get tossed right out on your ear, Rob. I mean that's blasphemy.
Am I allowed to say that on the radio now, or has that been added to the 7 words? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why this transgender thing is so important, because, you know, as a college professor, I'm in the truth business, and I try to help my students learn how to think critically and get at the truth. And so when we're insisting that professors use their quote unquote preferred pronouns or whatever, we're essentially telling them that they have to affirm a lie, because a man cannot become a woman simply by changing his pronouns, or vice versa. And so when we go along with that and we affirm it, we're lying to them. We're not being truthful to them. How can we teach them to search for truth and to use reason and logic when we refuse to do the same?
Yeah, how can we teach them a responsibility if we just forgive student loans? Oh, that's an argument for a different day. I'm sorry.
Maybe for another day.
Distracted there. Yeah, for another day. But Professor, here's the thing. These colleges and universities have gone so far. My preferred pronoun, by the way, is Your Highness. So for the rest of the conversation, I'd like you to use that. But the fact of the matter is, we are affirming a fantasy. We're affirming something that the mental health professionals in this country and around the world for years have called sexual,
gender dysphoria.
Gender dysphoria. Thank you for that. And so we have issues here that are deeper than, hey, just call me he or she or it or whatever. How do we get people back on track? Because Title IX really is in trouble here. Because when we let biological men swim for the NCAA in championship competitions, I'm sorry, but that's absolutely absurd. There's no logic there at all.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And it's not just a matter of preference, and it's not just theoretical. There's very real harm that can happen here. When we overturn 50 years of Title IX protecting women's rights, protecting women's opportunities in education, not just sports, but sports is a very visible form of it. That's what Title IX was originally intended to do, to create opportunities, to make sure that women had the same opportunities on campus that men have. And that's what it's done for 50 years. And when we change the definitions and we throw gender identity into the mix, well, that just turns the whole thing on its head, because now you're saying men can compete on women's teams, men can take roster spots away from women, men can take scholarships away from women, men can stand on the winners platform instead of women. And that accomplishes exactly the opposite of what Title IX was intended to accomplish.
I have seen some, when you talk about competition in certain, sports, swimming's one thing, right? Track and field is one thing. But I've seen competitions of mixed martial arts and so forth. Well, the outcomes can be devastating, permanently devastating, because people can get seriously injured or killed. I mean, let's be honest. You can't just change your gender because you changed your mind. It doesn't work that way. I'm sorry, but facts are facts. Biological dimorphism is first-grade biology. Male and female have different distinguishing characteristics. Isn't that right, Professor?
That's absolutely right. Men are, on average, larger, stronger, faster than women. It doesn't mean they're superior to women. It's just, as you say, a biological fact. And
they're different.
They're absolutely different. And women can be amazing athletes within their own sphere. They just can't compete consistently against men, and they shouldn't have to compete against men. It's not fair to them. This is something I saw as an athletic director. I came into a small college that didn't have as many women's sports as men's, and so we worked over a period of several years to even that out and make sure that we had the same number of opportunities for women that we did for men.
Sure.
And now I'm looking at seeing that whole thing just basically thrown out the window by saying, oh, okay, you're a man, you can play on the women's team. That's fine. And it's not just sports. We talk a lot about sports because they make the headlines. But it's I read the other day about a scholarship for women in the STEM fields. And the purpose of that scholarship is to incentivize women to go into STEM. Well, I think that's a great thing. But if we go through with these new Title IX rules, any man on campus can apply for one of those women's scholarships.
It's totally absurd. It's totally absurd. First of all,
absurd.
More women are going to college now than men overall
that's true.
already. So, to benefit even more, it's insanity, Professor. I hope we can get a handle on this because we need it. Title IX was created, as you pointed out quite well, for a very clear and specific reason, to have equal opportunities and have a chance for women to excel. But for a woman to be pushed off the podium, I don't even worry about the person that goes from first to second. It's the woman that would have been third on the podium that gets kicked off altogether because there's a guy standing at the top. I got to leave it right there, Professor. Good conversation, sir. Come back anytime.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, but from Campus Reform, it's Professor Rob Jenkins here. We'll take a quick break on America's Voice Live for this Labor Day. I'll be right back.